Hello and welcome back to Audible Video. So today we want to take a look at the wealthiest countries in the world, and we want to make a case for the wealthiest country in the world in my own opinion. So taking a look at the richest countries in the world according to Forbes, number one is United States, then China, Japan, Germany, United Kingdom, France, India, Italy, Brazil and Canada. But when we take a look at the wealthiest country in the world, the top 20 countries are Luxembourg, Singapore, Ireland, Qatar, and many others. But in this case, we want to take a look at Luxembourg, Qatar, United Arab Emirates, United States, and China in this case. So let's take a look at, for us to understand how we arrive at this country that we have chosen, let's take a look at these others. So let's start with Qatar. So Qatar has an export of around 47 billion and an import of around 26 billion. So it's a very good indicator that it exports more than what it imports. So this is a very good indicator. So let's focus on what it exports. So in this case, we can see it has petroleum, gas, crude petroleum, refined petroleum, ethyl polymers, etc., etc. So in this case, we can see it majorly exports petroleum products. This include petroleum gas, crude petroleum, refined petroleum. These are petroleum products. And it imports gas turbines and cars. Okay, so let's take a look at the second country. The United Arab Emirates in 2020, exports was around 216 billion and imports around 214 billion. It broke even, that is. And we want to take a look at exports in this case. You can see we also have crude petroleum, which accounts for 42 billion, then followed by gold at 28, almost half. And then we take a look at the wealthiest country in the world. This is Luxembourg, according to Forbes. So when we look at Luxembourg, we can see that it has an export of around 24.6 thousand and an import of around 35.6 thousand. Let's not focus much on exports rather than import. You can see that in the import side, because it doesn't have petroleum products, you can see it, apart from cars, the number one commodity that it imports is refined petroleum. This is energy. It imports energy. So now let's take a look at United States. Exports 1.3 trillion and imports 2.2 trillion. When we look at the exports of the United States, it has refined petroleum, crude petroleum. So there is a trend here which is going on. And then on the import side, they also have crude petroleum. Also, they export crude petroleum, they import crude petroleum. This is very odd. But imports exceed export in this case. So now let's take a look at another country, which is China. I think China, according to this data, is the number one country in the world in terms of trading, because you can see exports 2.6 trillion and then imports 1.5 trillion. According to this data, China has a cushion of around 1.1 trillion. According to this data, that is excess exports 1.1 trillion. And we can see what China imports. Number one is crude petroleum. So there is a trend I wanted you to notice here, which is energy. Any country that is involved in energy has a lot of production in its case. According to this information here, you can see in 2020, China was the world's biggest exporter of broadcasting equipment. And in 2020, again, China was the world's biggest importer of crude petroleum. I hope you notice the trend. The trend is about energy. Energy input is equal to energy output. So the more they import petroleum products, the more they export broadcasting equipment. They use this energy to convert it into something which is needed in the market for them to make this trade. So now I want us to think about energy in terms of the future. So in terms of the future, we have to have green energy. My point as to why I arrived at this country being the wealthiest country in the world is because the narrative is starting to change from petroleum to electric energy, in terms of batteries manufacturing, in terms of EV, electrical vehicles, that is. A lot of people are looking into electric equipment in terms of storing electricity. In this case, if you can harness the power that is generated by the solar panels during the day to use it efficiently during the night, then there is no need for you to have things like petroleum generators, that is, in this case, let's say in a remote area. So a lot of people are talking about the green future, the Vision 2050. So in this case, we want to take a look at the country which exports or the country which is responsible for the green future. And this is the Democratic Republic of Congo. You can see exports 19.4 billion, imports 8.7 billion. But when we come and read here, it says that in 2020, Democratic Republic of Congo was the world's biggest exporter of cobalt oxides and hydroxides, cobalt, other ores, cobalt ores, copper alloys. So when we talk about green energy, this is what is all about.
We're going to be investing, and I should say these are conservative numbers, so we expect to exceed these numbers. I think we'll end up investing over 4 billion. We're adding another 4 million square feet of manufacturing space, and at least 3,000 jobs, direct jobs, and I think it'll probably end up being more than that. These are conservative estimates. So yeah. So we're going to do our high volume semi-truck manufacturing here, and then we're also going to be adding 100 gigawatt hours of Tesla 4680 cell manufacturing here, and that's just to start. I think long term we may do as much as as much as 500 gigawatt hours long term, but this increment is 100 gigawatt hours, so hugely important. Game changer.
When we talk about the green energy, we are talking about Congo. That is literally, if you are an investor, whenever we talk about green energy, just think about Congo. All Congo is about. So today we are going to focus on only one mineral. On another video, we're going to focus on another mineral, which is very important as far as the green movement is concerned. According to data from the United States Geological Survey, USGS, around 140,000 metric tons of cobalt were produced worldwide during 2019. More than 70% of which came from a single country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, in Central Africa. So what this means is that Congo produces around 70% of the world's cobalt, and number two is Russia, around 6%. Just look at the difference in numbers there.
Although one of the poorest countries on earth, DRC is rich in minerals. But a history of brutal colonial exploitation looks like being repeated now, in 2017. Much of it's mined by hand, with rudimentary tools in harsh, potentially hazardous conditions. And wretched whether or not, the rush is on for a mineral the DRC has in great abundance, cobalt, and it's fast becoming more precious than gold. It's a critical ingredient in lithium-ion batteries which power smartphones and laptops.
Whatever is coming out from Congo is whatever the world is moving towards. And on another article here, you can see the numbers here about different metrics of cobalt. You can see the numbers here, Congo-Kinshasa, which is outstanding from the other countries which are in the same chart here. The number two country is around 6,300 and Congo is at, this is according to 2019 data. But the sad thing is that as much as there is a lot of cobalt and a lot of potential in Congo, I don't understand the reason as to why countries like Qatar and United Arab Emirates have pivoted from the energy sector, and they are now among the top 10 wealthiest countries in the world. I don't understand the reason as to why Congo is still the poorest or one of the poorest countries ever to exist. All the elites are now investing in the battery manufacturing. That is, they're moving towards the green energy. It was very sad for me to watch a certain documentary here about a woman who had 2 children, which are twins, and she was thinking about the first day when her children will be walking. And in this case, she's saying that immediately the children start to walk, they're going to the mines. They're going to be miners. In this case, it was very sad for me to watch that. I don't know how hard is it for people to invest in these places so that people can use machinery instead of artisans.
But even if they stay healthy, the twins face a lifetime of hard labour as soon as they can walk. An investigation last year by Amnesty found similar human rights abuses. Nothing appears to have changed. Most of these child miners will never own a smartphone. They barely survive from day to day. And many other children like Dorsan will be back again tomorrow, digging out one of the most sought-after minerals of our time.
They're literally modern slaves, I can say. As cobalt demand rises, increasing attention is being directed to the DRC, the Democratic Republic of Congo. However, cobalt mining in the country has been linked to human rights abuse, including children labor. In response, the London Metal Exchange has taken steps to ensure that all producers associated with the exchange follow responsible sourcing guidelines. So for us to conclude our video, I want us to watch a very short clip about Elon Musk, which is talking about the future of green energy.
Like there are 3 elements to a sustainable energy future. One is obviously sustainable energy generation, which is primarily wind and solar. There's also hydro, geothermal. I'm actually pro-nuclear. I think nuclear is fine, but it's going to be primarily solar and wind as the primary generators of energy. The second part is you need batteries to store the solar and wind energy, because the sun doesn't shine all the time, the wind doesn't blow all the time. So you need a lot of stationary battery packs. And then you need electric transport. So electric cars, electric planes, boats. And then ultimately, it's not really possible to make electric rockets, but you can make the propellant used in rockets using sustainable energy.
Right.
So ultimately, we can have a fully sustainable energy economy, and it's those 3 things: solar, wind, stationary battery pack, electric vehicles. So then, what are the limiting factors on progress? The limiting factor really will be battery cell production. So that's going to really be the fundamental rate driver, and then whatever the slowest element of the whole lithium-ion battery cells supply chain, from mining and the many steps of refining to ultimately creating a battery cell and putting it into a pack, that will be the limiting factor on progress towards sustainability.
Thank you for watching the video. Hope I'll see you in the next one.